The Strange Tenant. A story by E.B.'s Heart. Boma and his new wife Gina were informing their friends after church service that they were moving into their newly built house. Everyone was congratulating them. They got married 2 years ago and put resources together to build 2 flats, one for them and the other to be rented out. We want a very wealthy tenant. I want the type that will be able to pay us any amount we mention. We prefer people that are based abroad or whose spouse is abroad. They are the type that have the kind of money we want, Boma and his wife would tell any house agent that inquired about their house. Few months later, a house agent informed them of a man based abroad who was willing to pay the exorbitant price they wanted. Boma was overjoyed. At last a worthy tenant had been found for them. The man paid them extra 200,000 plus the amount they asked for. This did not make them feel uneasy but very happy. Few weeks after payment, Gina was at home when she heard a loud horn at the gate. "Open the damn gate," a voice said in American accent. She quickly opened the gate and saw a very big truck that was filled with properties. "Who are you?" she asked the man that was knocking. "I am the house agent, and that man shouting is your new tenant. He is here to move into the flat he paid for." "Okay." Gina smiled and quickly opened the gate for them to move in. She tried to greet the man, but he totally ignored her. Instead, he was ordering her around. "Hey fellow, carry this stuff. Hey fellow, hold the damn door." He kept shouting and ordering Gina around. When Gina could not take the insults and bossing around anymore, she went into their own flat and locked the door. She started observing what they were doing from the window. That was when she saw big sack bags that seemed too heavy, that was carried by 2 hefty men. What is inside this bag? She kept wondering. As she looked, it seems the bags were moving. Is it an animal that is inside this bag? She asked no one in particular. She called her husband. "Honey, the new tenant is just moving in. He has a lot of strange properties. Mind your business and don't provoke him. I heard he is from America." Boma said dismissively to his wife. The new tenant, whom the house agent introduced as Nick, was always dressed in baggy shorts, heavy chains on his neck with long beards and oversized polo. To crown it all, he was always indoors, and was seen just a few times, because he was trying to settle in. For almost a month, they never saw their new tenant come outside again. They only saw a young man that always come to bring him supplies, and never responded to their greetings nor answered their numerous questions. So one day, Gina was bathing at night. She felt a heavy movement on the ceiling. She was scared, so she ran to the sitting room to call Boma, who was asleep on the couch. "Honey, come, there is something in the ceiling." Boma listened, but heard nothing. "It may be a rat, just relax," Boma said to Gina, who was a bit shaken. They both went to bed, but Gina got the shock of her life when she came out to urinate at night and saw a very huge python coming down from the manhole in their ceiling. Her scream was heard by even the neighbors. She screamed and fainted. Boma ran to the bathroom where she screamed from and was surprised to see the ceiling manhole which was in their bathroom open, and Gina lying unconscious on the floor. He quickly carried her into their bedroom. When Gina woke up the next day, she continued screaming, but Boma held her down and asked, "What is wrong with you?" Gina then calmed down when she saw that she was safe. "I saw a very big python coming down from the ceiling manhole when I went to ease myself." Boma laughed at her and said, "You know that's not possible, right? You don't believe me?" Gina asked, upset. "Believe you? Of course I don't believe you. How can what you said be possible? We are living in the middle of the city where it is even hard to see a little snake outside. How can you see a python inside this our newly built house?" Boma said and laughed again. Gina felt so hurt. "I know what I saw," she murmured and started crying. However, few days later, Boma was watching a football match late at night and Gina had gone to bed. When he heard a weird noise coming from their bathroom, he quickly ran to the bathroom and saw a big python hanging from the ceiling manhole, while its head was inside the bucket where it was licking water. He shouted, "Snake, oh, snake!" but the python disappeared that instant. It ran back into the ceiling manhole and Boma could feel it running in the ceiling. Gina ran out when she heard her husband's voice. "What is it, honey?" she asked with a sleepy face. I just saw the python now, Boma said, fidgeting seriously. Gina shouted, and they both ran outside and started calling for help that night. Some neighbors ran to help them. What is happening? A man living very close to them asked. We just saw a big python inside our house coming down from our ceiling. The man shouted and ran outside. How is that possible? Call the vigilante people. They can help, another man said and ran into his own house. The next day, the vigilante people came and they searched everywhere including the ceiling, but saw nothing. What of your tenant? The head of the vigilante asked Boma. He is inside, I guess. They were all surprised, so they decided to knock on his door. They knocked for several minutes, but heard nothing but the loud music coming from his flat. Boma called the head of the vigilante aside and said, I want to know what this my tenant is doing inside his flat. I put a spy hole in the ceiling, at least it will help us see what is happening in the parlor. Could you please help me and have a look? The head of the vigilante agreed and climbed with other two men. What they saw left them shaken for hours. They saw the weird tenant lying on a big foam at the center of his parlor playing video game with two big pythons curled around him with their heads on his belly. Gina started crying, and Boma was weak. So this python was from him? Boma asked, fuming. You have to report to the police. This is so strange. How did you even get such a tenant? Didn't you interview him to know if he was sound? That person is definitely mentally sick, one of the vigilante men said. And whatever you are doing, don't stay here for now, leave and fight him from afar, another man suggested. Gina managed to go and pack a few things and they both entered their car to leave their own compound for a tenant they accepted. But before they drove off, Gina remembered a Nanny Camera she had casually bought online when they newly married. She was hoping to use it when they start having kids. She ran inside and managed to get it. Honey, let's install this Nanny Camera in the toilet where the manhole is. That way we can be able to monitor what comes into our flat even as we are leaving. Boma sneaked in and placed it on the window, where it can capture the selling manhole properly. They both went to the police to lay complaint. The police officers laughed so hard at their complaint and told them it was not possible, but later told them to return in 3 days' time, so that they can get a search warrant. Boma and Gina lodged in a nearby hotel, and they could not even sleep because they were focused on their laptop where the Nanny Camera was connected to see what will happen. Towards 1 a.m., they saw two pythons sliding into their flat from the ceiling manhole. Boma was fuming in anger. The snake left around 5 a.m. in the morning through the same opening. Gina was crying and calling all the men of God she knows. When they called the house agent that brought the tenant and told him what was happening, he blocked their line. But nothing prepared them to withstand the shock of what they saw the next day. A crocodile slipped down the hole around the same time the next night, followed by their tenant. The tenant had broken a part of the ceiling to enable his big body size to fit in. He spent hours in their flat, and when he was done, he smashed the camera, because everything went blank. They took the video to the police the next day. Look, this is the man and these are the animals he is living with in our house. When the police saw the video, they were terrified, so they told Boma and Gina that they don't have a suitable equipment or resources to handle such case, and we don't even know if he has lion and other wild animals. How can you accept such a mad person into your house? The police officers blamed them. I think you should take this matter to Human Rights Office, the police suggested. This was how Boma and Gina left the police station devastated. They started going to places looking for help. Everyone was willing to help them, until they see the video. Once they show people the video, they will back out. Even men of God were not left out. For a week, Boma and Gina were still living in a hotel. One day, Boma burst into tears in his office. Everyone became concerned and wanted to know what happened. He narrated his ordeal to them and they took it to their boss, who was a younger brother to the commissioner of police. Boma's boss quickly called his brother and reported what was going on. He promised to send some armed policemen to help Boma recover his property. Few days later, the police, Boma, Gina, and some of their friends drove to Boma's house to chase the American returnee away. However, when they got there, they discovered that their gate was locked from the inside. They knocked for some minutes and got no response. So one of the police officers climbed the fence to jump in and open the gate, but what he saw made him scream. He saw a zoo. So many wild animals walking about freely. He jumped down and they looked for ladder. When they got about 5 ladders, the police officers climbed and started shooting at the animals. They shot at the tiger first, then the crocodiles that were inside an iron cage. That was when Nick ran outside and surrendered. He started begging them not to kill his family, that he will pack out. But they refused and continued shooting, so he signaled his pythons to attack. One of the pythons jumped out of the fence and everyone scampered to safety, including the police officers. The python was able to use its tail and hit one of the police officers hard and he fell and lost consciousness. The police officer was recused after some minutes when the python had ran back inside. This was how the police declared the area a danger zone and asked everyone close to the house to evacuate. Police came back several weeks later and threw a poisonous gas inside the compound, rendering every living thing within the compound unconscious, including Nick. They now went into the compound and shot all the animals dead. Then arrested Nick, who was still unconscious. Boma and Gina got back their house, but it was damaged beyond repair. The entire ceiling was punctured to enable the pythons play freely. The tiles in their flat were broken and grass was everywhere to make the tiger feel more at home, as if he is in the wild. There was a big wide pool at the back of their house where the crocodile swims sometimes. The entire walls were punctured to allow enough air in for the animals. They both wept and regretted allowing someone they don't know into their house because he had money. Nick woke up in police cell and started crying for his animals whom he believed were his family. All the efforts by the police to interrogate him was useless because he believed he was an animal and those animals were his family. So they took him to a psychiatric hospital and locked him up there.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.